Well, in other news, people, since I'm sharing news, India seems to be going through its MeToo moment. There's a whole hype going on right now with hashtag MeToo going on in Bollywood and the whole Indian, that kind of, the entertainment industry. So what are our thoughts on some of this? Hashtag MeToo. You know, I don't know, because I'm not such, I'm very kind of skeptical of this whole Me Too, and I'm not very keen on this kind of thing. I'm very, let me make it clear, I'm categorically against abuse. But what I see in this Me Too, I want you to hear me out in case the feminazis kind of decide to go, they decide to say, okay, Colonel Mutrib, dispatch. We're sending you to Birmingham, and then the next thing you know, I'm here in my library. I'm like, yeah, I really need that arm. If you don't, can you change that music as well? I don't really like that music. Can you show me the bag you're going to carry me in? I just want to know whether... Right, so if you... Well, these are my thoughts on this. I feel that, look, this Me Too thing, I feel it's a class thing, right? I don't feel it's about justice, and I don't feel it's about protecting women's rights. I feel it's just a class thing, that nobody really cares about the abuse going on. They only care when it happens to certain people of a certain class. So, like India, for example, is the rape capital of Asia. There's probably, I've said this in the past, probably statistically, some reports state that there's 106 rapes on a daily basis in India. Nobody seems to really care. Nobody does anything. You know, they don't care, like, because it's the lower classes. It's not, it's like when it's a poor people's problem, nobody cares. It's like in America, when the black communities were being, you know, torn to a million pieces with drugs and things like this. It's not a problem. But the moment it hits the suburbs and the kind of middle class communities in America, it becomes a problem. And I feel that now in India, like, or in America, when these actresses said, oh, you know, we got touched or things like this, it became a problem. Because they were not your common people. They were not the commoners. They were not the lower classes. So they were talking, so it's only it's only a upper middle class and an upper class problem. Like, that's all people really care about. If you've got money, they care about you. If you don't have money, nobody gives a damn. And I think this Me Too thing is, because of that, I find it quite... So that's why I'm very kind of weary of this kind of thing. Actresses, you know, oh, like, in all honesty, the directors, you know, these things like casting couch, this is so well known. Everybody knows about things like this. I'm not saying it necessarily makes it okay. I'm not saying that it makes it okay. But what I'm saying is everybody knows about this. That women, for example, they will, to get into certain casting, to get a cast or to get into a movie or to get into something, they'll sleep with the directors, or they'll do this or they'll do that. And sure, they won't probably want to, but they'll think, well, it's worth it because I'll get in, I'll get this role. This kind of director's casting couch thing is a phenomenon that is nothing new. Everybody knows about this. It's like a known thing. And people do it. Like, this transaction of I'll exchange sex for other benefits and gains is the oldest transaction since humanity. And I'm not trying to say it's okay, but I'm trying to say everybody knows that. And then sometimes some actresses will say, oh, during this, you know, I felt during that dance or whatever it is, he touched me in a way, or he did this, he did that. I think this so eclipses the real problem of abuse. You know, it's like somebody said, in the UK that women saying that, oh, so-and-so touched my knee is an affront and an insult to women who have actually been raped. Like, what the hell is this? Like, you know, stop trying to steal the limelight. And these women saying, oh, you know, to get a job in here, I slept with this director or I did this. I feel is the same kind of thing. It's just them trying to steal the limelight of victims that are being abused and raped, and they don't get a voice because they're just poor and nobody really cares about poor people. So this is why I feel very weary on this whole kind of Me Too thing. I think it's just a celebrity thing. I think it's just for people with money. That's all it is. And it's nothing really to do with women's rights and stuff like that. It's just to do with people who are popular, and it's about taking them down. So that's my, and possibly about attention seeking and stuff like this. It may be, I mean, and it doesn't always mean, and I would like to say that I feel as well, it is unfair, although I can see the dilemma, but it is unfair that just by casting an allegation, somebody's life is thrown upside down. And then, yeah, I mean, how do they recover from that if it's false? Like, I don't know how. And there have been false allegations. There have been false allegations of sexual harassment, of sexual abuse, of sexual. And I'm not saying that's not to detract from the true victims, but how do you strike a balance between that, between people who are. So an example, like I remember reading, was it earlier this year in the papers in the UK about a person who I think was a taxi driver. I think I may have shared this incident before. He was a taxi driver, and some woman, he gave her a lift, and but he recorded the whole thing. She didn't know that. And the next day she made an allegation of rape, and his life was thrown upside down and everything. And you know, he's like arrested and he's in remand and he's like this and that. And he kept telling them, look, I've got a recording. And she even slashed her own face. Wow. She even slashed her own face. And then eventually when his recording came forward, and you could see that he had nothing to do with this. He'd actually dropped her off and gone home. And then later on she confessed when the recording came, and she did have charges brought forward. But her sentence was nothing compared to what he would have suffered. So I feel sometimes it's difficult in this world having that kind of balance in how do you safeguard victims, but at the same time, I feel it's unfair that every time a woman says something, the man has to be wrong. It's true, isn't it? Like if a woman slaps a man in public, everybody will just think it's the man's fault. But it's so true. So guys, always you gotta block. I remember this guy told me once, he said he showed he showed me this picture of him with a bandage on his head. So I said, whoa. I said, what's that? And he said, well, my wife beat me up this one time, and I said, no way. He said, yeah. He said, I was sitting doing something, and she went to the kitchen, brought a pan. she smacked it over my head like about 6 times. So I said, I said, okay, so, you know, the first time she smacked you, the first hit, that was obviously like a surprise, like you obviously didn't know. But why didn't you block the others? Well, he just like, well, what the hell now? You know, you've hit me once, you might as well just carry on now. No. I was like, you know, you could have blocked. But yeah, so yeah, so my point anyway coming here is, it is true that if a woman slaps a man in public, it's unanimously the man's fault. This is why people, you got to be wary who you choose to be with. Okay, so I just think, and in light of that, there is recently I've seen something going online about you know, Imam Zia and from America, and and from what I know of Imam Zia, of my kind of knowing of him, that he's a great person, you know, very humble. I'm aware that he's done very good work in America. Sure, I mean, that doesn't mean, to be fair, I accept that that doesn't mean that people are not capable. Everybody's capable of doing something. But in all honesty, I read a post the other day, and the reason I'm saying this is because it's already so public, that some girl said, I mean, look, you know, these allegations, I mean, these are all public and everybody's discussing them, so it's no harm in commenting on them. That she's saying, well, you know, he used to support me and counsel me, but once I turned 18, he proposed marriage, and oh, I didn't know, so I accepted, and I don't know what to do, and you know, these kind of claims. Oh, he, you know, like so and so called me to a hotel. Oh, I thought I was going to a hotel for just a conversation. What kind of conversations go down in hotel rooms, yeah? Why don't I get invited to these conversations? Can we have a group chat here? Can somebody send the location? What kind of conversations are these? Oh, I thought I was going for a conversation. Oh, and when I was there, the person said, oh, why don't we be intimate? And I didn't want to upset the person, so yeah, okay, I got intimate, you know, but, you know, I was so weak and I had no idea what was going on, and later on I realized, and cha. Does it say is there something you're reading over there? वाह यार, ये क्या देसी नारी है यार. You know, these kind of super innocent, naive people. Blessed are the innocent. Are there still people like this? Come on, get real. Get a grip of yourself. Do you seriously expect anybody listening to this to believe this story? Like, oh, you had no idea. Oh, you poor thing. You had no idea. Oh, I mean, you know, when you got intimate, you didn't even know what this was. Oh, okay. You know, I mean, so this is what I mean. The kind of ridiculous stuff that is being thrown around. Throwing a whole person. Look, what people do, what I'm trying to say is that one is clear abuse. Abuse is abuse. Categorically unacceptable. Haram, condemned. And people, if they do things like that, it should be reported and they should be investigated and serve the consequences. And I support any victims. But that is abuse. You know, this kind of stuff, like, oh, a relationship that later on you don't feel so happy about. That is not abuse. You know, like, oh, I get it. You know, like, oh, yeah, I'll have a relationship with somebody. But, you know, now thinking about it, you know, now I don't get that kind of attention. So I'm just going to say, well, I don't know what I was doing. And I'm so naive. And I'm so... Get a grip of yourself. You know, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it like you know, like, this is what I think the dilemma of some modern day kind of, some women, that they will say, look, on one hand, we are super independent and we are very capable. Don't treat us like we're inferior. We are just as capable. There's gender equality. And I agree with that. They are just as capable. They deserve there should be no disparity in genders. Women should have equal opportunities in everything. I fully support that. On the other hand, they'll say, oh, you know, when a man will speak to me, I'll become so incapacitated. I don't have no akal left. And, oh, I didn't even know what was happening. You know, I'm so innocent and naive. So, anyway, so my point is, this isn't to, look, like I say once again, I categorically support any victims and I condemn utterly abuse. But abuse is abuse. This other kind of stuff of relationships just gone bad or somebody feeling rejected afterwards or somebody saying, oh, you know, he doesn't give me attention now, or you read of these things, or somebody, for example, being in a relationship and then later on just regretting it, and therefore calling that retrospectively abuse. These kind of actions in and of themselves are abuse, I feel. And they also eclipse the true cases of abuse, where people have truly suffered, and people who really, and those people truly need help, support, everything. And I said, look, I said some women, I did not say all women, okay, because there's many, I mean, I'm just talking about some of these cases. Just as some men are equally just full of drama. They'll do crazy, stupid stuff and dumb stuff like Neanderthal stuff. I mean, in fact, that's probably most men. Most men probably still are just in Neanderthal mode. But yeah, so that's some of what's going on. But I just felt, seriously, I read some of these things online, and it disheartened me a bit that I saw, look, if it's a police case, let the police investigate it. That's what I say. What's all this like? You know, there's all these people online jumping and this kind of, oh, this is, you know, oh, he must have done this, he must have done this. And let's say later on you don't find anything, that guy's life has just been ruined. And so if it's a police case, which I think this is, the police are looking into it, let them do it, let them do their job. And people should just refrain from casting judgment. Let the authorities first see to it. If they say there's no charge, or if they say there is, fine. Yeah, I mean, it does. Look, somebody said, Mufti, it looks like you're taking sides. Yes, I'm taking sides because of from what I'm seeing. I'm not taking sides in saying that so far people have shared the story, including apparently this girl, whoever she is, I don't know who she is, but she's shared the story, and this is the story. That, oh, you know, like she's saying things like, he would call me to a hotel room, and I would just go, you know, I would think we're just going to have an honest chit chat in a hotel room. Oh, yeah. You know, like, oh, he'd like tell me, let's be intimate, and I'd be like, oh, okay, I don't want to dishearten you, let's be intimate. I mean, what? But nowhere is she saying, oh, he forced me. She's not saying he forced me, like he grabbed me and forced me, and she's not saying that anyway. She's just saying, oh, I didn't want to dishearten him. But then later on, now thinking about it, I don't know what I was doing, and so I'm so naive. In fact, I didn't even understand the whole thing. I just feel like, so all I'm saying is that I think it's just unfair that the way people are then treating Otam without, yet the police investigation is going on, but they're treating this guy like some kind of a rapist. It's like, whoa, let the investigations happen. Let them come out with their outcome. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Okay? Okay, people. Okay. We're going to have a dars. We're going to have a lesson, people, in a hotel room. You turn up in your robe. There's a dress code. Okay. Everybody must just wear a robe. Anyway, let's take some questions, man. Let's take some questions. So, that's not to, by the way, I say this stuff not to kind of, I hope people don't get offended, although almost everything I say offends some people. But my point is, look, let's just be real. Like, I don't like sometimes what, this whole thing that you, because I just feel sometimes it's a bit unfair. I do feel it's unfair against men. And as a man, you know, it's true because because I was reading this article once before, actual news incident within the UK, that a guy, I mean, okay, I mean, in that case, I don't, you know, there's some details, and I suppose they could confess to that later, but it brought up an issue because in this particular incident, this guy was having sex with his wife as she was passed out. And in this particular incident, I think he recorded it or something on a phone, and I think, like, a year later she saw it or something, but there had been several incidents like this. So she told him, and he went and reported this himself to the police. And they said, "Mashallah, swagatam, swagatam." This way, and they went straight. I think he got like a 10-year sentence or something. But my point was, it brought up a discussion that what is consent? Like, let's say, because it brought up a discussion that, let's say, if a person is married. Now, let's say if a person sleeps in the same bed, if he snuggles up to his wife and holds her or touches her and she's asleep, technically he doesn't have consent. And she could do the same thing. I mean, she doesn't have consent to touch. I mean, at what point do people draw the line? Like, I mean, it becomes... And I just feel that it's unfair in many ways towards men. I just feel that. That's, I suppose, my sentiment. People don't need to agree. There was a case this year. This one's a bit graphic, people, so parental advisory. I mean, my whole thing is live and unrestricted. But there was a case within the UK that during sexual intercourse, during actual sex that a couple were having, or two people were having, man and woman, not gay, but during this, this case, right guys, this is a bit graphic, so those of you, ain't for the faint-hearted. I mean, it's not that shocking, but still, it's... So, but during sex, he had inserted his thumb in her rectum during sex. So she then later on pressed charges for that act and said the sex was consensual, but that was an act of forced sodomy. She said, well, I never consented to that particular act. So that went to trial and her case was eventually dismissed. But this is a case, I believe, from this year in the press in the UK. And it's it's crazy. This is what I mean. It's crazy that where do people draw the line? Like I just, that's why I was just sharing my sentiments. Everybody is entitled to their opinion. I don't know. Somebody said it must have details. I've got no details, but you can read about it. It's on Google. Right, let's take some questions, people. Let's take some questions. Because this is going to get way too graphic. Talib is saying, do you mind? I'm trying to eat. No, I don't mind at all. I hope it's helped. I'm just glad to have been some help. Right, so... Right, people, let's take some questions.